I know, well, some people have had to go and some people are doing other things, and some people have been very naughty and not told me that they're not coming, well, whether they're coming back or not. But anyway, they had to get all the way out to South Brighton for a meeting at 4 o'clock, so that isn't their fault.
That's fine. Most of this is information that was asked for and that we said we'd bring to you yesterday.
Right. Well, look, if you just have a wee meeting with you. Sorry, no, I don't mean to be mean, but I wasn't here yesterday, so that's fine. So let's quickly run through this, and if we can get it done in 5 minutes, then great. I'll be very pleased.
Okay. All right. So there's only 3 matters that we asked to report back on. First of all was a question about the colour of disabled parking spaces. So you might have in front of you the what I've just left on your chairs or on your desks in the tea break. So the first page has got our responses to the questions that were raised yesterday, and then we've also got some further information for your information to back this up. So yeah, the first issue about the colour of disabled parking spaces, there was a question about whether we can require that disabled parking spaces be painted blue in the district plan. We've had a look at the standards for this matter, and there on the first page of the information that is attached to this table. Currently, there is no actual requirement that disabled parking spaces be coloured blue. It is a recommendation in the New Zealand Transport Agency's Traffic Control Device Manual, and so what we are suggesting is to continue the same as what they have done in this manual, and put it as a recommendation but not as a requirement because of the costs and the difficulty in enforcing such a requirement. So,
is it true we can't enforce these disabled or impaired drivers' parking spaces? That we can't actually enforce them on private property? So in the supermarket, shopping malls, yeah.
I've managed a couple of shopping centres. It is very, very difficult unless you've got a proactive centre manager who is proactive.
No, I mean we.
No,
as the
council have no jurisdiction over private
Well,
land.
it seems to me to be pointless that we require shopping centres to have parks specifically for impaired drivers, and then we don't have any role in enforcing that.
I think it depends what you mean by enforcing. So, because it's in the district plan, we can enforce that they provide the park.
Yes, I know, but they don't have to enforce people using them.
So the reason that I wanted blue put in is because the research shows that where they are painted blue, the chances of abuse of those spaces are a lot less. So it actually means that, the enforcement is an important issue, but actually what it means is that you get a better outcome for what you're trying to achieve, which is provide a space for someone that's disabled to park. And I know the disability sector has been looking at this in Christchurch. I think the hospital are looking at it. So I just think
it's outrageous that we have a plan that says you have to provide, and they don't actually have to enforce it. It's just crazy. It's like saying you have to build to 12.3 metres or whatever, but actually, as long as you're at 11.8, no one's going to notice.
Yeah, I think it's largely left to the goodwill of the people who park there and hoping they don't jump into the disabled spaces.
Have you ever?
I haven't done it. No, that's probably bad karma.
Well, a friend of mine, a friend of mine who's had a lifelong disability, she went round putting, sort of leaving notes on people's windscreen wipers saying you can have my disability as well. It kind of makes the point. But actually, what's the point of having them if people don't respect it?
Mm. I think the issue that the councillor raised was, can we require them in the district plan to be painted blue? And our response is to you is that if someone came in for a resource consent and we were making them get a resource consent because the car park wasn't painted blue, it's something that probably wouldn't, $1,500 for that sort of thing is possibly not a good look for council. There'd be issues in terms of enforceability of the paint itself, So it's not the type of thing that the level of detail that we'd normally put within the district plan, requiring someone to paint a car park a particular colour. But it is still seen as best practice, and there is kind of encouragement for them to do that, but it's not
But if we
something we put
made
as
the
a rule in the
parking
plan.
spaces public space for the purpose of ticketing people who park them, if people park in a disabled park and they don't have a mobility thing with
Yep.
them, when they're on the street, our car parks, or a car park set aside in one of our car parks, we're able to ticket them for doing that. Well, why can't we make them public spaces, even in the private, in the shopping centres and the malls, so that we can just make sure that we can actually go in and ticket people who do that? I mean, I don't say that we need to leave it to the mall owners to police. Why don't we just police it ourselves?
Yeah, there's two different enforcement issues. We can enforce that they provide it, and they must put all the signs up that say it's a wheelchair park.
Yeah, no, I understand
But
that.
we don't have the legal obligation
No,
to
but
go
if
into
we-
someone's property and control how they use the land.
And if in our plan we said that the parking that we require them to provide for people with mobility issues, that we will that is something that we can enforce. Why not?
A lot of the centres now have actually are using Wilson parking to manage their car parks. You might find that regime about the enforcement around the disabled parks now, actually they can enforce it and do ticket on it.
Yeah,
It's just
Rickenham Mall,
yes, a lot of them actually have taken
There's-
it up.
Wilson's, Northlands Mall, Rickenham Mall,
Yeah, there's a few that aren't.
none.
For public as in council parks, do we require the disabled to be coloured blue?
No.
No.
So
No.
the ones that we can, just recommend it. So when people come come to us to get permission and we require them to put their parks in, do we recommend that they paint those blue, or just leave it to say you've got it by two or whatever disability parks? So could we change that and say, and we recommend strongly that you colour them blue?
Yeah, so that's what we're proposing, that we put a recommendation in
Yeah.
rather than a
Yeah, sorry,
requirement.
there's a piece of paper, so,
Yeah.
yeah. So anyway, but obviously the answer to my question is no, you can't do that, so let's just move on.
No, we haven't quite answered that yet, Madam Chair. One suggestion that you were flagging was that the car park space itself be deemed to be public space in some sort of way. The only way to achieve that would be a subdivision of the development land.
The answer's no, so move on, move on.
So that one's a no. But the other way of addressing this sort of thing is there's often consent conditions or detailed requirements for permitted activities that require record keeping of a particular type. Now that doesn't sound like much, but if you've got a requirement for, I don't know, that there shall be enforcement by some very well specified mechanism of the disabled parking, then there is a way for the council as consent authority to check, to monitor whether there is that enforcement system set up.
No, I don't think it'll get through the,
Just quickly, say for instance you've got a private ward, you've got car parks, you lease or you give a contract to Wilson's to go around and police it and they can ticket. What would be the difference to allowing council, doing a contract with council parking, that they have the legal permission to ticket disabled parking? I mean, there's no difference between it's a council meter person or a Wilson's car park person. What's the difference?
Yeah,
So in that way we could.
yeah, there were a number of parking buildings we had in the central city pre-quake that we didn't actually own, but we had the management rights for because the landowner had obviously signed a contract with us to do that. So yeah, we could do that, but obviously there's a cost implication of that. We'd have to sort that out with each landowner, but it's up to the landowner to give us those.
yeah,
Contract.
but they, yeah, but it's a cost, so anyway, it's not gonna, the point is that it doesn't work, so we'll have to accept what is recommended.
Yep.
On the issue of blue though, aside from the cost issue, for new provision, for new developments, there's no reason why we can't do that.
we're recommending that we don't because it would be very difficult to enforce, very difficult to practically have someone apply for a consent that they want to colour it a different colour or have no colour, and then if we decline the consent, that's or charge them $1,500 or whatever it is for a consent that is probably not a very good.
Well, why don't we make it?
reception,
Why don't we make it that the identification of the disabled parking spaces will be in accordance with the NZTA traffic control device manual, that blue be used to better identify, etc., etc. And I mean, leave it like that. So it's a kind of a direction to go down that track. It's not, you'd end up not being enforceable, but it would be pretty strong recommendation, more than it is recommended blue be used to help better identify.
But that's essentially what we're recommending, because the New Zealand Transport Agency guidance, the standards don't actually say you must use blue. That's the wording from the standards that it is recommended. There's no actual requirement.
Let's raise it with central
If it's an
government.
extra cost, it won't happen. It'll be like one of those things that people don't do because they go, well, it's not really that important. So we know we've got an issue with enforcement. We know we've got an issue with disabled car parks being used by people that don't have disabilities. And we know that one of the best mechanisms to stop that from happening is to have a dedicated blue coloured car park. So I personally can't understand why we wouldn't do it. Or maybe if you're worried about cost, for developments over a certain size, so where they're providing more than, and I don't know what the trigger would be, but where they have to provide more than 2 disabled car parks or 1 disabled car park, then maybe there's a trigger there. But it just,
can they say they'll be blue unless there's a reason otherwise? I mean,
No, that would be leaving too much discretion, and anyone reading the rule has to be able to know, including council planners, have to be able to know on the face of the rule whether someone complies with it or not. It simply has to be certain and measurable. At the moment, does it say has to be marked or has to be painted? So
how many are not blue? I've never
Does it
seen
already
one that's
require
not blue.
painting?
Hey?
It doesn't require it to be painted.
Yeah.
No, but it requires it
Lots
to be
are not
painted
blue.
and marked. So
I've
that
only
you can
ever
see
seen
where
blue
it
ones.
is.
It would
Marked.
marked.
Yeah, marked for disabled.
What's the difference?
So it
I
has
would
to
have
be
thought
marked.
yellow ones would have been just as effective.
But we have to know what kind of palette blue. We have to specify then.
But if you
Oh, I see.
if you
Oh.
refer to the first page, I've got an example. This is the picture of what has been recommended.
Right.
Now, just an example, that would cost in the range of $1,000 per park to just have that paint, and then you've also got the ongoing maintenance of that paint, because obviously with wear and tear with vehicles going up and down that with tyres, it will wear out quite quickly. We've got thousands of disabled parks throughout the city, so if we required private developers to do it, then we would have to do it ourselves, really, or it would be double standard. It could be millions for us to do that on our part. So
Yeah.
there is cost implications, but it's a decision obviously for
I'm
council.
actually going to give up at this point and hand over to Phil to chair. No, but I've got a meeting at 3:45. Yeah, but it's only going to take another few minutes to finish the meeting. Well, Vicky will do it for you. No, she's at the same